Hello, in this presentation, we're going to talk about the degrees of value, and this is something we think about when we're viewing objects and when we are shading them. So the lesson objectives are to identify and locate the degrees of value on different shapes and forms, to shade different sizes of shapes and match the areas of value, and to demonstrate the ability to create a smooth gradation shading on basic forms. So we have just some vocab words to quickly review. So form and value pretty much go together because by using form, right, we are creating three-dimensionality, and then value is the illusion of depth, right? We're making things look 3D due to the use of value. So form, that is something that is three-dimensional and encloses volume. You are a form, you are three-dimensional, you are not flat. These are examples of basic forms. Gradation, this is something we're trying to achieve with our shading where we have gradually transitioning from one color or value into another. And for this current unit, we're focusing on the gradation of light to dark of one color, but you can definitely do gradations of red into green or yellow into purple. And we can see examples here of nice smooth gradation. So we are familiar now with a value scale. This shows the highlights, midtones, and shadows of one color. And if you're like, Miss J, what's a tone? Tone is the lightness or darkness of an area. Sounds really similar to value. These are just words that we use when we're talking about the use of value. So the value scale always has white. These are the lightest tones. It's often the white of the paper. The midtones are this transition of light gray into a darker value, and they're just a bunch of grays. And then the shadows are always the darkest tones, which are like pure black. And again, for our unit, we create this pure black by using an ebony pencil. That is our value of 10. And you can see the degree of values here. You can see the highlights, which are the pure white areas. You can see the range of grays, and you can even find some of those dark shadows. So if we were to take a picture of an object and posterize it, we could actually find these areas of value. And you can see here that the 1 is a very, very light gray, while the 8 is the darkest gray. This is a photograph of a still life of objects. And you can see the different degrees of value of here as well. We could actually create a value scale based on the areas of value. And you can see that here in the shaded artwork by a student. We can find those number 10 values, and we can also find the number 1 value, which is the highlight. So for the degrees of value, again, this is a set of vocabulary that we use when we're talking about the way that light is working on a form, and then those are the things we need to think about when we are shading. Our first word is highlight. The highlight is where the reflection of the light source is most intense. Highlights are typically a very light value of color or completely white. And for us, when we're just shading black and white, our highlight is going to be white. It's exactly where that light source hits the object and bounces back up. Midtones. Now these are the areas on the form where some light is hitting, but it's less intense than the highlight. It's really an area of transition of a lighter gray to a darker gray. And the midtone can be the actual color, the local color of the object, or just a value of the object. So in these two examples here, it's kind of this range of this transition of grays into a darker gray. So we can see this on this photo here of this red apple. And if we were to turn it into completely black and white, right, the local color is the red, now it's the gray. So you can actually see some of the range of those midtones, regardless of what color the object is in real life. The next word is core shadow. Core shadow is the area on the form where the light is prevented from hitting or producing an area of shadow. Basically, it's a very, very, very dark gray. It's on the form. It's not out of the form. Core shadows are typically darker values of the local color. Like this is the darkest area until you actually reach the cast shadow. And the cast shadow are areas of darker values that result on surrounding objects or surfaces. This is light that is blocked from reaching these areas completely because another object is reflecting most of the light away. So basically, with this photo here of this egg, right, the light source is coming from the top right. There's the highlight. The light curls around the form. There is those midtones kind of reaching the reflected light, and boom, your cast shadow is on the table. In this example here, the cast shadow is on the table. Cast shadows are always opposite of the light source. and they are created due to the object blocking the light. And you can see how the angle of the light source would change the angle of the shadow. The last word is reflected light. This is on the form, okay, it's on the object. This is where sunlight is reflected back off of the surrounding objects and surfaces. This light bounces back onto objects, producing an area of lighter value. And we can see it here in this photograph of this egg, right? There's the midtones, core shadow, boom, reflected light. Where is that reflected light coming from? It's coming from the table. So the table is white or gray, and that light that hits the table is bouncing back up onto the form. So here's the degrees of value on an actual form. So this is an actual sphere. The light source is coming from the top right corner. So the light is streaming down this way. So where is our highlight? It is somewhere right around here. The highlight is somewhere there. And we can see the cast shadow. Again, the cast shadow is created due to the sphere blocking the light. Is there reflected light though? Yes, the reflected light is actually right down here because this is a white piece of paper. So the light, the color of the paper is reflecting back up onto this white sphere. So this is the reflected light. Where are those midtones? So the midtones are actually right in this area. It's going from the highlight to kind of a darker gray. Our core shadow is all right here, this area right here. Because again, the light's coming down, there's that highlight, it goes over the surface. There is our core shadow. There's our reflected light and our cast shadow. So this is the highlight. Again, it's the pure white part of the form. We have our midtones, which is that transition of lighter grays to darker grays. Again, the highlight is created due to the light source. Then we have a core shadow, so those midtones eventually curl and they become the darkest part of the form. And then we have reflected light, which is created due to the light bouncing from the table or the surface back onto the object itself. And then we have the cast shadow, which is created due to the object blocking some of the light from the light source.